by the campaign, and that is what led to the process and the place that we're in right now, was the campaign fully cooperating and helping with that. What Papadopoulos did was lie, and that's on him, not on the campaign, and we can't speak for that.
That's the White House's public message today on a former Trump campaign advisor caught in special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. George Papadopoulos pleaded guilty to lying to FBI investigators about his contacts with foreign nationals who had ties to the Kremlin. He's now cooperating with Mueller's probe. You just heard the White House simultaneously distancing itself from Papadopoulos and taking credit for his arrest. Other Trump allies today tried to paint him, Papadopoulos, as someone who played a small part in the campaign.
George was a low-level volunteer who might have attended a meeting of the Foreign Policy Advisory Team.
He was a volunteer with the campaign, served on one of the committees. I never heard of Papadopoulos. He never showed up at Trump Tower. The guy was the coffee boy.
Low-level volunteer, coffee boy. Politico now reports Mueller has an interview with Trump's White House communications director, Hope Hicks, on the books. The report notes that this marks a new phase of his interviews now with current White House employees, not just those who have already left the Trump administration. Yesterday's indictments and the pending investigation still hang over D.C. As the Washington Post put it, the hardest part for official Washington is not knowing what happens next. Amid the escalating criminal investigation into Russian election, every corner of the city finds itself preparing for the unexpected. Let's turn now to our panel. Phil Rucker, the White House bureau chief for the Washington Post and an MSNBC political analyst. Kimberly Atkins, chief Washington reporter for the Boston Herald, and Ken Vogel, New York Times political reporter. Thank you to all three of you. Phil Rucker, let me start with you because you've got some new reporting out in the Washington Post tonight about the pressure on Donald Trump to fight Mueller publicly. You've written a number of prominent Trump allies, including former White House chief strategist Stephen K. Bannon, have said they believe the president's posture is too timid. Seeing the investigation as a political threat, they are urging a more combative approach to Mueller that would damage his credibility and effectively kneecap his investigation. The interesting part about the article, Phil, is that the president is resisting this pressure.
That's right. You know, it would be within character for the president to want to be combative and aggressive, but he has been convinced, at least as of now, by his lawyers, Ty Cobb, John Dowd, and Jay Sekulow, to take a much more conciliatory approach, to be collaborative and responsive in working with the special counsel, and importantly, to not personally antagonize him, to not be tweeting attacks about him, but to sort of keep his eye focused on other things related to Russia. But Bannon feels like he needs to be much more combative, much more aggressive, that he's too timid, he's being taken advantage of in this investigation. And you see a divide on Capitol Hill as well, where some Trump allies are really urging a more combative approach to undermine Mueller in this investigation.
Kimberly, it was kind of remarkable to see all of those voices on the morning shows and on TV last night singing from the same songbook, talking about Papadopoulos being this low-level volunteer and this coffee boy. Very different tune, because the only reason any of us know about Papadopoulos is because Donald Trump said his name to the Washington Post unprompted in March of 2016. How is this approach working for them?
Yeah, I mean, and remember, he said this name because at the time, the idea was he didn't have a very strong national security team, and so he was trying to tout them, and he was one of the people who he touted among that team. But look, the White House can distance itself from Papadopoulos as much as it wants if there is evidence that higher-ranking campaign officials were responsive to him, were urging him to get in touch with Russians. Some of these emails seem pretty incriminating from the documents that were unsealed in the Mueller investigation. It doesn't matter if he was a coffee boy. It's not.
He was a coffee boy who was offering to set up meetings with Vladimir Putin. And Ken, nobody told him not to. There's no record or tape or email of any of these senior campaign officials to whom Papadopoulos reached out, as Sarah Huckabee Sanders said, of his own volition, who said, no, volunteer, low-level volunteer coffee boy, don't do that. That would be treason. That would be really bad. There's none of that.
Yeah, in fact, Ali, there is the opposite. There is evidence of them encouraging him, at least not discouraging, but even a little bit of them encouraging him. And to your earlier question about this defense that he was just playing this limited role, he was a copy boy. I mean, let's not forget, this is sort of an approach that they took to minimizing Paul Manafort's role when it was revealed that Paul Manafort was a target of the investigation. Sean Spicer said from the White House podium that he was someone who played a very limited role for a very limited period of time. That's laughable. That's ridiculous. So it sort of undercuts their ability to use that defense in the case of other folks where it might actually apply better, because they're sort of the boy who cried wolf here.
You tweeted earlier today, Ken, about why it's odd for Trump allies to claim that they didn't know about Manafort's work. That is kind of strange, because all of us in the news industry knew about it. There's no way the campaign couldn't have known about it.
Yeah, and beyond that, we actually unearthed at the New York Times a memo that Paul Manafort sent through Tom Barrack, a close friend of both Manafort's and Donald Trump, to Donald Trump when Manafort was trying to get onto the campaign, where he talked about his strengths. And one of the strengths that he specifically cited on the very first page of this memo in a bullet point was that he had managed presidential campaigns around the world. Well, who are those campaigns? The most recent one had been that of the former Ukrainian president, Viktor Yanukovych, a strongman who was very much aligned with Vladimir Putin. So it's kind of tough, again, to say that you didn't know this stuff. All it would have taken was a quick Google search. But if that didn't suffice, you had a memo sitting on your desk that said precisely this.
There seems to be to have been a staffing problem, Phil Rucker, at the Trump campaign, where nobody got the most basic vetting. No one got a Google search. But the bottom line is, one of the things you wrote about tonight is that Washington is preparing for the unexpected. There's another thing that has to be going on in Washington. We've got tax reform that was supposed to be unveiled tomorrow. That's now held over for at least another day. What does Washington do when it doesn't know what's around the corner?
Well, that's a good question. I think Washington collectively freaks out when it doesn't know what's around the corner. This is a town of people who are used to orchestrating their own chaos, especially President Trump, and he's flying blind right now. He doesn't know what's happening next in the Mueller probe, and he's got an agenda here that he's really desperate to try to, create a success out of. And tax reform is slow on the Hill. It's going to be a difficult climb to get that done by the end of the year, as he's hoping. Remember, the president leaves on Friday for a 12-day trip to Asia, so he's going to be half a world away as all of this continues.
The bully pulpit that is needed when you've got to bring parties together may not be available. It'll be in Asia. Kimberly, on a normal day, and there are no normal days, but on a normal day, the lead story would have been the fact that we had Twitter and Facebook and Google testifying. It was some remarkable testimony today about the Russian influence on the election. Did you get any sense that these tech companies are in a position to contain, identify, and limit the influence that Russia is having on our political system?
Well, look, all of these executives said that they are taking this seriously and they are taking action to prevent what happened, all of these fake accounts, fake users, fake posts during the election season from happening again. But lawmakers seem far from satisfied in that effort. I think they were looking to them to tell them, look, we've got this under control. You really don't have to act Congress. But lawmakers didn't seem to think that that was enough. We had Senator Patrick Leahy calling them a bunch of Johnny-come-latelys, saying they could have done a lot more before the election rather than reacting afterwards. So I think we're going to continue to see Congress look at them and scrutinize them very closely as they continue tomorrow.
I mean, it's a tough situation for them to be in, because given the exposure that they had to Russian influence, if they say they knew about it and know how to handle it, they're in trouble for letting it happen. And if they say they didn't know about it, they're in trouble for not knowing who is posting these millions of posts hitting hundreds of millions of Americans.
And that's absolutely right. And there's also the point that they don't want to be gatekeepers of what people can say on Facebook. There's a line to be drawn there. They can't yank everybody off who seems to be suspect. They want to allow people to use these platforms, but at the same time, they have to learn how to police it too. It's a tough job.
It's a job we've all learned at our respective media organizations. It's tough to be a media organization, but that's the way it goes. Those companies don't want to call themselves those things. They want to be platforms, I guess. Phil, great to see you. Thanks very much. Kimberly Atkins and Ken Vogel, thank you for being with us tonight. Still ahead, the White House predicts a quick end to the Mueller investigation, but there are indications that this may be just getting started. The 11th hour is back after this break.
I can't wait for her to have that college experience that I had. The classes, the friends, the independence. And since we've planned for it, That student debt is the one experience I'm glad she'll miss. When you have the right financial advisor, life can be brilliant. Ameriprise.
I sent this email out and we got double the calls this week.
Double? That's a lot of work.
Yeah. The guys are going to have to work the weekend.
I have a chess tournament this weekend, Mike. You knew that.
Constant contact email marketing.
You knew that.
Powerful stuff.
Hand-me-downs stink. I've worn this shirt like a gazillion times, and you can't even tell. It's time I do something about it.
Try